You're listening to episode 22 of the Afros and Pixie Dust podcast, Representation Matters with Eryka. Hey, Diz friends! Welcome to episode 22 of the Afros and Pixie Dust podcast. I am your host, June. So, this past weekend was the D23 Expo, and I have yet to come down from all of the magic that I experienced. I barely even learned about any of the new developments while I was at the expo because I was so wrapped up in everything going on the show floor. And I was just so excited to finally get to meet and chat with all of you that I've been following on social media for so long, that finding out what was going on in the parks and the movies and whatnot was kind of like an afterthought. I did have some amazing highlights from the expo, which included getting to do a fun photo op with members of the cast of Grownish, Blackish, and Mixedish. It was everything, and yes, I was that person fangirling over all of them and their mamas. I also got to sit in on the panel for Grownish, Blackish, and Mixedish, and yes, I was that one again, hooting and hollering and cheering for Holly. And the other amazing thing that happened was I got to talk to Floyd Norman and his wife, and they were so amazing, so humble, such beautiful people. And I saw them all up and down the show floor, just talking to people, taking pictures. I thought that was so amazing of them, that they are just so down to earth. And I saw that Mr. Norman took a photo with a special someone's shield. Shout out to my Captain America, Mr. Purnell, at Purnell Langhorn. So that was also really cool to see. And so those were the highlights for my D23 experience. But the ultimate experience for this expo didn't even have to do with what was going on at the expo at all. It was the meetup. I am so overwhelmed, so overjoyed, so full from all of you who took the time to come out to the meetup, to share your love of Disney with your fellow Disblurds. I loved meeting every last one of you, and it was just the best time ever. We all fellowshipped and got to know each other a little better, got to talk to people we may not have normally spoken to or linked up with, and that was the best part of it all. For those of you who couldn't make it, do not fret. There will be more events like this in the near future, and I will definitely keep you all posted on everything going on in the community, so don't worry about that. If you did follow along, you may have seen the pins that everyone received, and if you like them, I do have a few left, and I will be doing a little giveaway on the day that this episode drops. So head over to the Frozen Fantasyland Instagram page to find out how to enter. This week's guest is Eryka. She is a California native. She has been Team Disneyland her whole life, but she's opened her heart to Walt Disney World when she went to college in Georgia. She may be the biggest Tiana fan out there, and unless you've had a Princess and the Frog wedding, don't even bother to challenge that claim. I finally met Eryka this past week in Disneyland, and although it was brief, I was so happy to connect with a fellow advocate for Disney fans of color, and I'm just excited for everything that she has planned to do within the community to help us grow. And without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Eryka. Hello, Eryka. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So excited. This is going to be fun. I just know it.
Likewise, likewise. I've been waiting. I'm like, ooh, I get to be on the podcast because I've been listening from the very beginning. I'm a fan.
Oh, thank you for being a day one. I appreciate them all.
Of course, of course. We got to stick together out here.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So let's start off, and you probably already know. Let's start off the episode with you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Alrighty. Well, I wish I had something super interesting, but I don't. I'm just your everyday, regular curly girl who enjoys Disney. I have been a California resident my entire life. Transplanted in college to Georgia, so I had a brief hiatus from Disneyland and developed a love for Walt Disney World at the time. But um, I'm 28, married, 3 dogs, no kids. I'm a childless millennial, and life is great.
Awesome. Well, I love being a mother. It wasn't a lifelong dream, but I always encourage women to enjoy their childless years so that they can, appreciate their non-childless years.
But don't get me wrong. Auntie E love the kids, right? Like I'm a greatest aunt ever. Okay. I will love your child, spoil them, and then return them to you. That's my favorite part is the end where I can return them. Because I like things like sleep, I like my money. I think children are maybe in my future one day, but I'm definitely enjoying the childless millennial years right now.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Yes. Live your best life
I'm trying.
today.
I know it'll just be a new type of best life when children are involved, but right now I'm good with the life I'm living. So,
Right, right. Enjoy, your disposable income and all that great stuff.
right, it's a beautiful thing, is it not?
Very, very. So, you've been a Disneyland girl your whole life. When
Yes.
did your love of Disney first start?
Oh man, I feel like I probably came out of the womb as a Disney fan. I think my parents just always exposed me to the Disney magic really early. I have childhood stories like that my mom will tell from, me being a teeny tiny person and her being incredibly like sleep deprived. And she'd be trying to take a nap, so she'd put on, a Disney movie that would keep me posted, which was usually Beauty and the Beast, the original. And I would crawl up in bed and like, take my little fingers and open her eyelids and be like, "Are you watching, mommy? Are you watching?" So like, I feel like I go way back with my Disney love, even probably further than that. But that's probably the last like memory I have of when it all first started for me.
Oh, so is Beauty and the Beast your favorite?
Oh, see, this is where it gets difficult because I have more of like a top 5 list, and for me they're all pretty evenly yoked. Like I don't know that I could just separate one, so I have like a top 5 that I'm rolling with for classic Disney, and then like a top like 4 or 5 for Pixar. Beyond that, I'm not like too deep in the like Marvel verse and like Star Wars and Muppets. You start branching out too much for me, it starts to lose some of that depth.
Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. There's different facets to this, and Disney knows it, and that's why they have their conglomerate.
Exactly, that's why they own everything, right?
Right. So what would you say is your top five for your Disney movies?
My top 5 is probably Beauty and the Beast, and I feel like I have to like specify now, like OG Beauty and the Beast, OG Aladdin, OG Little Mermaid, Princess and the Frog for sure, and then ironically, my obscure choice, Hunchback of Notre Dame, is one of my top.
Okay, that's nothing wrong with that.
It's a little
Um,
dark, but I love it.
Yeah, and we love Esmeralda, so.
Yes. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. She's like
Mm-hmm.
honorary top for me. If you were to ask like favorite princesses, favorite just like representation, period, I'm a Tiana Esmeralda hybrid. I will forever be that, I think.
Oh, okay. You're giving me some ideas here. I'm gonna have to dress you for that.
I would love that.
Yes, I can see it now. So, Esmeralda and Tiana, are they the characters that you say you'd identify with most?
Definitely. I think I always tried to find myself in the other women of color in the, Disney verse, if you will. I remember growing up dressing like Jasmine for consecutive Halloweens, dressing like Pocahontas consecutive Halloweens, which now I think would probably be considered cultural appropriation, but that's neither here nor there. But I was 18 before Tiana was a thing. So I definitely tried to find myself in those other characters, and Esmeralda was one of them. I had a sleeping bag, any merch I could get of hers, her cute little belly dancing skirt with the little tassels or whatever on the end, I was here for it. So yeah, definitely see myself in them. And I think more as an adult, I've come into the Esmeralda side and just like her compassion and low key activism.
Yeah. So wait, I've never seen Esmeralda merch. You actually own it? Do you still have it?
I don't still have it. It's one of my deepest life regrets. But
Oh.
my cousin Ashley and I, we had matching Esmeralda sleeping bags from way back in the day, like the kid size sleeping bags. We dressed as her for Halloween, so various pieces of that costume. And I still, to this day, will rock a classic gold hoop. So
Well, bamboo hoops, that's the style.
big hair, big hoops. I'll do it every day.
Yes. So, how would you say you like to express your Disney fandom?
I think it kind of manifests in different ways. I realized I'm starting to collect way more ears than I probably need. I only have one head, but yet I have like 15 pairs of ears. The collection seems to keep growing. I have a weird thing about coordinating my ears with my tennis shoes. And I also collect Disney mugs because I'm a avid tea drinker. So kind of my thing.
Okay, what would you say is your favorite mug?
Oh man. My favorite mug right now that I've just been like rocking with is this ridiculously oversized classic Mickey mug from Target. It released when they were doing the whole 90th celebration thing, so it's probably about a year old now, but it's a good one. It's like the size of my head. It's great.
Oh, you get all the caffeine then.
All of it.
I have like, I think only one. Ooh,
What?
don't judge
Oh,
me.
okay. I'm definitely gonna have to bless you with a Disney mug when we connect.
Yeah.
That needs to happen.
I have a Mrs. Incredibles mug.
Okay, that's cute. It's cute and it's a
And
great start.
yes. And I think
Gotta
that,
get you the Tiana mug at least. I mean,
yeah. I
that
see
was the
them,
oversized, but
like I see them and I'm like admire them and then I just think of them breaking and then I put them back.
that's fair.
I
See,
gotta
you
get
have
past that.
kids too, so the odds of them breaking are probably a little bit higher in your household versus mine, where they will just sit untouched by tiny humans.
Do you have like them displayed?
No, I actually had posted a picture not too long ago. I went to Disney and took a picture in front of one of their like massive mug displays. And I was like, I'm just documenting this so that when my husband returns from deployment, he can build one for me. So I'm
Uh,
hoping that in our next home, now that he's back, I will have a place to display them. But as of right now, they're sitting tucked away.
oh, okay. Yeah, that would be really fun. I've seen some that are like insane.
Super elaborate. I don't think he'd ever let me like live on that level of greatness because his Disney love is not nearly as high as mine. He tolerates it because he loves me. So hopefully if I can just get like, an open face cupboard or like a glass facing cupboard to put them in, I would be okay with that. A good
That's
start.
cool. That's classy. That's perfect for like a Disney home kind of
Right?
feature. I'm here for that.
If he left
Sure.
it up to me, our whole house would be decked in Disney. So that's why he doesn't leave it up to me.
I know. I every time I have to do a project in the house, I'm like, let's make it Disney. And
Exactly.
then
How
like,
can I
hey,
Disneyfy this?
exactly. Like we just redid our bathroom and it legit was going to be like, a replica of one of the bathrooms at the parks. And
Yes. Why did that not happen?
I mean, I had to take a step back and say, we may be selling this house soon.
Okay,
So
okay. Resale value. I get it. I
yes,
get it.
yeah, dollar down.
Adulting.
So I ended up with a shower curtain.
Okay, look, compromise. I'm here for it. You start with a shower curtain, then you can add rugs and throw towels. We'll just keep
Well,
working.
we do. We have a Aladdin bathroom rug. So yeah, we have that too.
I love it. Love it.
Little things here. And I could take that with me. So if I actually install things, then I would have to leave it. So,
That's fair.
got to compromise somehow.
Hate when adulting clashes with my vision.
I'm ready for my forever home in Golden Oaks so I can like really pimp it out and get it
Goals,
looking right.
goals.
Someday. Maybe
Yes.
there's a giveaway.
Right? I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed for you for that. As long as I get to come visit, I'll bring a mug as a housewarming gift.
Oh yes, the meetups will be there from then on
Yes,
out. It will be lit.
I'm here for it.
Forever. So, how often do you go to the park?
I go probably once every week and a half or so currently, because I'm living in Southern California again. But with this whole military life, we move quite a bit. So there's a very real possibility that before the close of the year, I could end up back on the East Coast. And so my cadence for park visits may change. But right now, I'm going as often as I can. So
Yeah, definitely get it in while you can.
for sure. I'm like, we bought the pass. I might as well get the most out of it. That thing has paid for itself probably 10 times over now.
Exactly. Exactly. Get your money's worth.
Right? I'm like, look, all these coins, y'all took all of them, so I'm gonna just make sure I'm getting my money's worth.
Right. And they ain't issuing refunds, so
Right.
get
Like
it
I can't
done.
transfer credits. Like if I, move a little early, they don't care. That's just gonna be the end of that. So
Exactly. Yeah. And definitely because you're a local, like, why not? It's
exactly.
a no
And
brainer.
people ask all the time, like, oh my gosh, you're going to Disney again? Like, yes, I am. And I'm going to live my best life. Thank you.
You know what? I need to make that a shirt. Oh my gosh, you're going to Disney again. And be like, and?
Literally, literally. My one of my really good friends bought me a super cute keychain that says, "Why yes, I am going to Disney again." I was like, "Thank you for this. This is my life in a keychain."
Exactly. I mean, those are the folks that don't get it, but it's okay.
Exactly. And it's
That's
okay. It's not for them to get. It's fine. Stay
right.
out of the parks. They'll be less crowded. I appreciate it.
Exactly. More merch for me, more popcorn
Exactly.
buckets.
More
I'm here for
snacks, just all of that.
it. So, do you go to Walt Disney World as well as Disneyland?
I do. I try to do at least one Walt Disney World trip a year. Just now being on the West Coast, it's a little expensive to make that trip any more than that. So I usually will try to do like at least a week long there, so I can really get the full experience. I luckily got to go twice, or will be going twice this year. I did the 4 park 1 day challenge, which was whew, a feat within itself. And then
Mhm.
I'm going back in the fall, late September, early October for technically my goddaughter's birthday, but her birthday is the day after my birthday. So it's a bit of a twofer situation.
Okay. Birthdays in the parks are always a good thing.
The best. The last time I spent my birthday in Walt Disney World was for my 26th birthday. I was mourning what I felt was the death of my childhood because I was officially getting kicked off of my parents' medical insurance. So I figured, why not celebrate that at the happiest place on earth?
Well, why not? The best place to relive your childhood, right?
Right? Back when times were simpler, my parents paid for my insurance, the little things.
Lord, I can relate.
Man,
Yeah. So you have been to all six parks in the US, correct?
yes.
Which park would you say is your favorite?
Oh man, that's a doozy. I feel like for nostalgia purposes, I have to go with Disneyland. I was raised in that park. So for me, there's just a lot of memories there. But if we're talking just flat out like bang for your buck, get the most out of, I would probably quite possibly have to lean towards one of the Walt Disney World parks. I can't believe I just said that. But so that I don't get jumped on as a California native, I'm gonna go with Disneyland as my final answer for nostalgia purposes.
Is Disneyland the park your number one, or are you a Disney California Adventure kind of person?
I still prefer Disneyland. It's classic. I know for like the thrill rides and all, California Adventure is probably a better pick, but I just love a good chill day, stroll through the park, eat a couple snacks, people watch, and I get the best experience with that at Disneyland.
Yeah, and I love watching you and the LA crew just chill and kick it in Disneyland. It just looks like such a vibe. I'm like, oh,
I'm eternally
there.
grateful to this California crew. Due to this Instagram of mine, I've been able to connect with amazing human beings. And I oftentimes get to chill with Dominique, Black Girl Disney, or Dominique Brown. I get to chill with Evelyn, La Disney Pixie. I get to hang with RJ, the adventurous RJ, Eddie, Timeless Disney. They're all amazing human beings. Eddie doesn't get down here quite as much as we'd like because he lives up in Northern California, but those are the best days. We have days where we literally will go and like not get on a single ride. We'll just kick it, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I love that Disneyland is a place where you can just meet up with your friends, hang out, grab some good food, chill, enjoy a show or two.
Yes.
And it's a great place. It's a positive vibe. It's a great community. The staff there is always going to be good to you. And
Yeah.
that's what I love about just, you know, about the parks. It's so great.
I agree. It's the entire feeling. It's a whole vibe. Like I just don't even know how to explain it. Like I love it. Everything about it.
Yeah.
Never had a bad experience at Disney. Not once.
Yes. And that's amazing that a
It
place
really
be
is.
like
And
that.
says a lot.
And
I've been going for nearly
especially
30 years.
right, exactly. You go, so often, and every time it's a great experience. How many places can you say can do that for you?
I mean, outside of Chick-fil-A, which I know might be controversial, but yeah, outside of Chick-fil-A, I don't know too many places where I can genuinely say like I've never had a bad experience there,
See,
you
Chick-fil-A
know?
is not a thing out here in New York. I think we got our
Oh,
first one a couple years ago, and it's not even accessible. So when I hear people talk about how amazing Chick-fil-A is, it makes me giggle because I'm like, of course we won't have it out here because
of
they won't
course.
have the same kind of attitude probably.
And honestly, I was surprised that it kind of grew the way it did in California because it's out of the South, it's out of Atlanta, and so to watch it spread nationwide and the controversy that surrounds it, I always find very interesting, because on one hand they have bomb food and excellent customer service, and on the other hand they have incredibly strong views that they stand by, and that can conflict a little bit with the liberal state that is Southern California.
Right, right. So very interesting, but
Right.
I digress.
Exactly. Another talk for another time.
Exactly. I mean, I think I've had the fries once and they were pretty good. So I think
Everything, the lemonade, it's fire.
okay. So, what would you say is some of your favorite things to do when you're in the parks, whether it's Disneyland or in Walt Disney World?
I absolutely love just like vibing at the parks. I enjoy when things aren't over scheduled or like, oh gosh, we got to get to this ride to get to this fast pass. Like, I know that oftentimes people who don't have the opportunity to visit the park as often, myself included, once upon a time, you feel the need to like get in everything in one trip, and you end up needing a vacation from your vacation after it's all said and done. So I just really love the idea of experiencing Disney as a vacation. So just going, chilling, having a good time, having a drink, strolling, people watching. Like, it's cool if I can ride a ride, catch a show, like see a parade. That's all straight and dandy. But like, I'm really cool just like vibing for the day.
Yeah. That's really cool. Like I saw you do your 4 parks one day. Thank you for taking over Afros and Pixie Dust and sharing that with us.
Thanks for letting me.
And yeah, I saw the look in your face and you're just like, oh my God.
I was so defeated by the end of the day. Like, I was like, all the magic from my eyes is gone. Like, it was awful. I fell asleep. I should have posted it. I don't know why I didn't. One of my friends recorded all of us knocked out. Like, I fell asleep fully dressed on the floor when we returned to our hotel room because I was waiting for my chance for the shower and just knocked out. I was exhausted.
Yeah. It's like that sometimes. And it's funny, like some people they live for that. Like they don't feel like
Yeah.
they've had a good vacation unless that's how they feel every night. And I may or may not be one of those. But
Don't know how you do it. God bless you.
I'm not a local, so it is
And
what it
that makes
is.
sense. That makes sense because you want to get, your money's worth. And if you're there, you want to, from rope drop to fireworks. And I think it's great to have the experience, to do that occasionally, but that's not how I like live my life in the parks.
Yeah. And it's what makes it worse is when you're seeing everyone else live their best lives in the parks, and then you make a note and list of things that you have to do or want to do, and then it's like, okay, I have to schedule in breathing as well because I'm
Right.
not gonna have time to do it all and see it all, and if you know
FOMO
exactly
is a real thing. Like that fear of
that
missing out will
FOMO.
really get you.
For sure. So I started theming my trips for the most part. I've started doing that since, we've had the kids because, I don't want to kill them. I don't want them to, hate going because mommy doesn't want to stop. So I said, okay, you know what? Let's figure something out. Let's come to a compromise somewhere somehow. And they
I may
like
have
it.
to steal that idea from you for planning this trip that I'm going on this fall. It's the first time I'm going with small children. So my goddaughter is turning 5. My other niece will be 2, and I will have an 11-year-old going on 12-year-old with me as well. And I've never done a trip with all 3 of my nieces at once, nor have I done a trip with a child under the age of 11. So,
Okay. My daughter's princess, so each kid has a birthday in Disney World before they turn 3 when they're free. And
I'm
so,
here for it.
you know, balling on a budget.
Right?
Um, and so her birthday trip was a princess trip. So we actually got a huge birthday card and like those jumbo ones you get at Hallmark.
Mm-hmm.
And all the princesses signed her birthday card. And we did actually hit up every single princess. So it was very successful.
I love that idea, and I'm definitely going to have to copy. I'll give you credit,
That's
shout
totally
out.
fine. I'll take a picture. I think I have a picture of the birthday card we got. I think it's still out there. It's a pop-up one with like all I think all the princesses, not all of them, but a good number of them. And Tiana was in there because that was a requisite.
Okay, I
And
was going to say all the princesses. Please clarify.
yeah, we got. I think it was a good number of them on there, and so they all kind of like signed by where their picture was. I think the ones missing were like Anna and Elsa, but like the princesses, the classic ones, and Tiana were on there. And it was so much fun. It was really fun. It was the funny thing was like, Jasmine and Aladdin visit together, like they meet and greet together. And so
Yep.
like Jasmine got this really fancy card and we're like, oh, I guess we have to get something for you to sign, Aladdin.
This isn't about you, Aladdin, okay?
Yeah. But we had like a second card for like everyone else. It was like, yeah, you can
Okay.
sign that one. But you can't have the fancy pop-up one with the glitter and all
Yeah,
that.
no, this is exclusive. You're not a part of this club.
Exactly.
I'm definitely going to have to steal all of that because my goddaughter is obsessed with the Disney princesses. It's kind of become like our thing. So she lives in Georgia, so I don't get to see her as often. But every time I visit, I always try to show her a new Disney movie. Well, I say new, but new to her Disney movie so that she's familiar with all the princesses by the time we go, because she has no idea. This whole trip is a surprise. So I'm very excited to steal this entire concept from you now. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. I love her princess face. She's kind of seems like she's slowly growing out of it, but it was the best ever, the best phase ever. Like I got all the costumes. We did it all. We visited the princesses. She got to do the Bippity Boppity Boutique,
Yes, we
and
scheduled that too. I'm so excited.
yay! I'm so excited for you. Yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. Make sure you can request a fairy godmother of color or a fairy
Okay, and that
godmother.
was my question. Get out of my head, June.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can definitely do that. And when we went, there was one, and I diddy bopped right up to him. I was like, "Hey, sis, you can hook me up right quick." And she said, "I got you, boo." And so it was a beautiful thing.
Yes. Yes. I love when you could just, spot each other from across the room and already know what's up. Like, you see us in line. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's necessary. If you want to feel good, you want to feel comfortable, I feel like you shouldn't be afraid to ask, because you're spending money on this experience. You want your child to have a good experience.
Exactly.
Got to be vocal.
Exactly.
And there you have it. And if I
Yeah.
think of anything else, I'll definitely slide you some more advice and tips.
Greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure. My other tip is like to get clear jelly shoes, the jelly sandals, because they
Hmm.
go with every princess dress.
Actually, that's a really true statement. Because let me tell you, nothing irks me more than when I see, like, I know that the cute little princess costumes come with those little plastic shoes. But when I see these babies just walking around with these plastic shoes in the park, I'm like, oh, the blisters, like, ooh, we needed an alternative here, like some cute little white kids or some jelly sandals, like you said, because those little plastic shoes are not meant for walking. They're meant for dress up in your room to go nowhere.
Oh yeah. Well, now they have like legit ones, and like my daughter will not change out of them, out of the official ones, like for outdoor use. And I mean, she wears them now. She wears them like as house shoes.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
crazy.
my heart. That's too cute. Too cute.
So, girls, they like it. I don't know what it is. They just love it.
I'm all here for it. I didn't realize they had the outdoor kind because, when I was coming up, we just had the little cheap plastic, not
Oh
even
no,
good
Disney
plastic.
knows.
Just,
They know that these girls like them and they want to wear them all the time. So they definitely have the officials now. So,
just take more of my money, Disney. Here you go.
yep, exactly. Just make a little line item for that.
Right.
That's it. So
Uh,
I'm excited for your trip. It's gonna be so much
Thank
fun.
you. Likewise. I hope I survive the park with children
Yes, it'll
to
be
be
great.
continued.
Yeah, frequent bathroom breaks, plenty of changes of clothing, and you should be good.
Nap time.
Yeah, yes, that too. So, you have come to be known for your advocacy for representation within the Disney community. How and why did you decide to become an advocate for the Disney POC community?
Oh man. So ironically, I don't know that it was a choice. It kind of just happened. And I don't say that to be like flippant about it, but really, I was having a conversation spring dapper day at Disneyland with my California crew, as mentioned. So RJ, Evelyn, Eddie, Dominique. We were at what is it, French Market or French Cafe, whatever the heck it's called, in New Orleans Square, and I'm pretty sure I was having jambalaya, but that's insignificant to this story. And we were just sitting down having a casual conversation about how nice it was to be able to sit at that table with other people who, were of color, and enjoy an experience like Dapper Day. And that there weren't a whole lot of other groups there that looked like ours. And, how there's just enough room out here for all of us to just be and exist. And it was so nice to be there as friends and as allies and feel supported and not trying to be like the token, Black person in the spot, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So after that conversation, a few days after, I had posted a picture on Instagram where I basically was just venting or ranting. I didn't think anything of it. I essentially was just saying that, like, my page is going to be dedicated to highlighting, spotlighting, celebrating, whatever you want to say, other people who looked like me, who were like minded, because I didn't see enough of it in the Disneygram space. And I feel like there's a lot of us out here. And so it was more of like a shock as to, like, why am I not seeing more of us out here? It's always the same two or three people who are being called to represent an entire demographic of individuals at a lot of these like influencer events and whatnot. And that particular post, it was one of the most liked and shared images I've ever posted. It might be the most liked and shared image I've ever posted. And it was kind of like this light bulb moment went off. It was like a turning point where I was just like, oh, okay. So I'm not alone out here. Like, y'all see this too. Like, this wasn't just like me and my friends kikiing over lunch about this perceived issue. Like, this is really a void that needs to be filled, or a dark spot that needs some light shed on it. And so from there, I just kind of activated, and I was like, all right, cool. Like, I'm gonna be about that life. I'm not just gonna be up here saying like, oh yay, Black Lives Matter. Like, I'm gonna show y'all like, we're out here, we matter, we're relevant. We can be magical and mythical too. Like, and yeah, it just kind of went from there. I've just been trying to stand by my word of making sure that whatever little bit of platform I may have is used to highlight other people in this space who match that vibe, who have the same sentiment.
Yeah. And I mean, this is what this whole podcast is about. So I completely agree with you on everything you said. Um, so yeah, there is a lack of representation in a sense in I guess the social media community. Um,
Definitely.
do you feel that Disney has done a good job to promote people of color within its brand itself?
I do. I feel like obviously there's always work to be done. Everybody has room for improvement, but I do feel like as a company, they have a very diverse workforce. I feel like they are making strides definitely in the right direction to be more reflective of the diversity of like their consumers and their products. I feel like their messaging has always, well, I won't say always. We all know there's a tinge of a racist background, but if we're not going that far down the timeline, um, their messaging, for years consistently has promoted some level of diversity, inclusivity. You look at even in like the rides, like, Small World or like Carousel of Progress. I think they've done an excellent job in diversifying their casting in their movies, and telling stories in new light. If the casting of Halle Bailey as Ariel doesn't scream we're moving in the right direction, I don't know what does. So I do feel like in so many of their other spaces, they do a really good job. I also feel like from the social media standpoint, Disney Family does a really good job um, in being more diverse in the use of their platform. The places I feel lack are more of your style centric um, pages within the community. Your beauty, your makeup, your lifestyle. Those are the spaces where I am finding it more and more challenging to see people of color represented on the same level.
So I agree. I feel like that Disney has done or has been doing a really great job with improving upon and progressing on their representation in their films, on television, um, advertising as well. And I I don't know why Disney style is on a kind of a bit of delay. My thought is maybe the style that they're looking for is not necessarily the style that is adopted necessarily by the Black community. Um, you know, I may be wrong, but
I
I kind of feel that
feel
way.
like so it's an interesting one for me. And um I don't mean to like harp on Disney style specifically because I know I have called them out before. And I do feel like since this call to action within the community like really got rolling, they have made strides to improve. So I'm not, just berating Disney style. However, I have always found it very interesting that platforms like Disney Style, Disney Lifestylers, Couture Kingdom has gotten better, but they were also on my list for a little bit. But I find it so interesting what you just said about like maybe it's not the type of style, that's like adopted or represented in our community, because I truly feel like Black people are pop culture, are the root
Hmm.
of pop culture. I feel
Hmm.
like Black people are oftentimes the root of style, not in all capacities, but very much so heavily inundated. Same way I feel like the LGBTQ community is a huge catalyst and root of pop culture and style. So for me, you can't, like I just feel like Black people specifically, but let's keep it general. People of color and LGBTQ communities are life sources for style. And so I just find it very interesting that it's not conveyed that way on platforms that have such large numbers. So for me, I feel like it's probably less about us not adopting the style as much as it is probably about whatever entities are over that platform. They're probably lacking voices from those communities to speak up. I feel like um, they need to diversify the people, the engine behind that platform in order to properly represent it,
Right.
if that makes sense.
So yeah. So they need more advocates. They need to find um, more allies or more people to educate them
Yes,
on
yes.
the
I
different
think
types of Disney style.
I definitely think that that is, sorry, my dog's barking. I definitely think that that's the case. I think that's why you end up with, publications, calling things boxer braids instead of cornrows. It's just because there's nobody in house telling them like this is not new. Just because y'all are now riding the wave does not, you can't rename it and call it something else and think that you out here setting trends.
Right, right. Yeah. And it's it's smacks of appropriation when the education and the research isn't done. And it doesn't take much, you can Google images now. So
Yeah, I
you
mean,
could,
literally I just feel like there's been missed opportunities. So like for instance, when I had initially kind of called out Disney style back in April, um I went and scrolled on their page and found that you would literally have to scroll into posts from previous years before you saw 5 to 10 Black faces, which I thought was bananas because I was like, we just had a whole month dedicated to Black history. Y'all didn't think that was an opportunity to maybe at least have one face on here, or like
mhm.
with the diverse movies that are coming out, Lion King, like that was a major opportunity to show faces with some melanin. And it was missed for me.
Okay, I see you. I feel you. I don't know if I don't think I started following Disney Style until you started mentioning it. It just wasn't a page that was popping into my head as something to follow or to get inspiration from, which makes it interesting. So, like for me, I don't think my style is a Disney style per se. I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly. Like I wouldn't turn to a Disney style for inspiration for my outfits. Does that make sense? I don't
No,
know.
that makes perfect sense. And I feel like it's interesting because their page isn't necessarily a source of inspiration as much as it is a platform to highlight fashion collabs with Disney, makeup collabs with Disney. Um, I feel like they highlight celebrities of color. Like Beyonce was on there for the, Lion King promos, and Will Smith was on there for the Aladdin promos. But like when you're just talking about your everyday influencer type of content, they seem to use the same face or faces, and which is great. I'm not like, keep doing that. I'm not saying don't use the people that you're using. I'm just saying there's more than one note to describe an entire race of people.
Okay. So you're saying like, you know, people like black people have different types of style, and which is true.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
is true.
it's just like we can do Disney style in the office. Like we work corporate jobs. I mean, I will rock a pencil skirt, graphic tee, and a blazer in a heartbeat. Like, and I just saw them do a cute little, like stop motion video with an outfit. Not necessarily one that I'd wear, but the sentiment is the same. Like we're out here, and if I can just get real deep with you for a second, I feel like every time Black people are highlighted on the page, they're my complexion, they're lighter, and that's great and wonderful and dandy, and like light skinned curly people, we out here too, but there are Black people in all sorts of shades with all sorts of hair textures. You cannot represent all of us with light skinned curly haired people,
Mm,
period.
yeah, I feel you. And that is a issue that goes back so far about colorism and
Yep.
making people feel more comfortable if they can, I guess, somehow relate to a person of color.
Yep.
And whether it goes to straightening one's hair or bleaching one's skin, which is an issue that people deal with in the Black community, just to feel a little less like an other or a little less like an outcast. So I do think that it is important to definitely bring a very good array of skin tones into the forefront.
I
Um,
agree. And
it's very important.
can't place all the blame on platforms like Disney style, because I understand that at the end of the day, they're an extension of a larger entity, and they have standards and KPIs, metrics, whatever that they need to meet. So I get why certain things are in place. Like they have to go after influencers that have a certain number of followers or certain level of engagement. I understand that. I completely understand that they're not going to promote content for unlicensed merchandise. So your small shops and different things like that, you can tag Disney style all you want. You'll never get featured on their page. That's a licensing issue. It's a legal battle. So unless you're showing off official Disney licensed merchandise, you're not going to be shown there. And then just the quality of photos. If you're trying to have a moment to be shouted out on those pages, like you have to look at the quality of photos that they're presenting. If yours don't match up, you're not going to get shown there. So it's kind of a two-way street. On one hand, they have a responsibility as a platform with over 1 million followers to represent all of their following, but also as influencers or people who are trying to be influencers or whatever, you also have to consider the factors that you play in this, and you can't expect to get featured when you don't meet the criteria.
Right, right. And I don't know if it's posted. It's not like it might not necessarily be something that everyone knows about or
Right.
knows, if that is something that they're looking to do, if they know the steps they need to take. So I don't know if they know what steps they do need to take to actually achieve that goal, if that is a goal that they have. So, um, you know, it's it's a whole world out there.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk to you for days about my complaints here, and I'd love to have like a town hall. If anybody from Disney style is listening, please contact me, because I would love to have a conversation about what we can do to work together, because literally you could scroll for ages. I could probably point out, just if I'm skimming their page, which I'm doing right now, um, three, four influencers, five, about five influencers of color. Anybody else on here that is of color is a celebrity, which is all great and dandy. But, I was scrolling for quite a while to get to that five. So, and some of them were duplicates. But I digress. Again, this is not an attack on Disney style. This is simply part of the reason why I wanted to have the conversation, because I was having difficulty understanding how I felt like I was connecting with so many other people who looked like me in this community, but I wasn't seeing them anywhere else.
Right. Yeah. And that's another reason why I wanted to create this platform of Afros and Pixie Dust, because um, I wanted people to be able to find each other. So if, you know, pages have a criteria for a minimum follow count or whatnot, in order to feature individuals. Well, if people don't have those numbers, people aren't looking to obtain those numbers, but they do still want to find inspiration. They still want to find other people to talk to. They still want to find people to follow. They would have an alternative platform to find those people.
Exactly.
And so that was my whole thought process behind creating this platform here, so that they won't have to, hope that one day they find somebody that they really, really, related with on another page that may not have that as their focus. And
Exactly.
and so I think that is an important part of, for lack of a better term, the micro influencer community, to support each other and to promote each other so that
Sorry about that. One
that's
second.
okay.
Shut up.
They got excited.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Somebody's
So,
bringing in the trash can and they lost their minds.
well, those are good dogs.
Yeah,
They're gonna
they're
keep you
definitely the
safe.
best sort of alarm system one could possibly have. But, you know,
Exactly.
real annoying when you're, in
Trying to do some
interviews and
work.
meetings. It's great.
Exactly. But so that's, a great thing that these other platforms can do. They can share those people that may not necessarily fit the criteria that the brands, the bigger platforms, or the actual brand platforms need to meet. So people that like to support small shops, and people that may not have larger followings but still have great creative ideas, they can still have a place to be highlighted, be celebrated, have their ideas shared with others so that people can find them and they can have opportunities to connect and network as well, without, you know, having to meet certain criteria that maybe they don't agree with, or maybe it's just not their aesthetic or their style.
Yeah, no, I am so obsessed with what you're doing. Like, I am just happy to be a part of it in a very small way, just being here having this conversation with you, because I could not agree more. Like, the importance of community in a space like this is what this is all about, and I think that there is sub communities within communities, and that's not to isolate anybody or segregate or whatever, but like you said, like, it's really nice to be able to connect with people without all the red tape. And I think sometimes the larger numbers, the larger platforms, they fall victim to red tape, and that's cool. Like, I get it. I really do. I understand all the inner workings of how that all comes to play, and which is why I said it's more like a two-way street. There's responsibility on the influencer or the content curators or whatever you want to call them, as well as the responsibility on the platform. But I feel like the responsibility of the platform is so much greater, because they hold the key essentially. I think it's no different than a platform like BuzzFeed that has created sub communities off of a larger brand. So you end up with, stations or whatever you want to call it, platforms like, was it Cocoa Butter, who literally just highlights things that are just black as hell, and like it's great, but it's still a BuzzFeed, subsidiary. And I would just love to see more of that, like not just for black people, but for like the Latino community. And I see people like Disneyland Mermaid, who has the numbers, who's going to these events, but she's often like the only one. And like it's not right. And she started that movement of Women of Color Crush Wednesday because she wasn't seeing enough of people who looked like her and other women of color highlighted. And I feel like voices like hers and yours and Black Girl Disney, like they're all so important. And I know there's more out there, so forgive me for not mentioning everybody, but like I just see so much change coming because of these conversations, and I know they're difficult to have, but so necessary, like so very necessary. And I would say that like it's a touchy subject, but I've received way more positive feedback than I have negative. In fact, since this whole thing kind of kicked off, so let's say April, so for the past like 3 months or so, I've really only had one conversation that like rubbed me the wrong way. Somebody came at me just like super sideways. But other than that, it's been really well received. There've been people who have been like, you know, I didn't realize this was a thing. Like I was like blind to my own biases, and now my eyes are open and I'm more aware. And if that's all it does, like that's a win.
Right. Yeah, and I think that the the thing that's changing is the fact that this community is growing.
Yep.
And so because the community is growing and swelling and more people are turning to Instagram and turning to social media to display their Disney love, they're finding people to connect with in and outside of the parks, that, people are starting to take notice more about the fact that there is a diverse community of people who are Disney fans. I think even a few
Yes.
years ago, it wasn't as diverse as it is now in the social media population. I mean, I can only speak for myself. I'm very new to Instagram.
Same.
I'm
Well,
maybe,
this Instagram
yeah.
life I'm in.
Yeah, no, I'm Instagram period. Like my girlfriends used to be taking pictures of me. I'm like, what are you doing? Like it wasn't like I'm not a picture person. I do not like taking pictures. I'm very camera shy. This is like a whole new endeavor for me, 100%. And so Instagram wasn't something that appealed to me. Um, but when I joined, maybe about year and a half ago, yeah, a year and a half ago, I my whole thing was like looking for people of color. Like I was searching,
Yep.
I was yeah, making up screen names to see what maybe someone would have that handle, and then when I found one person, I would look at all the people they were following and start following, the people of color on their pages. Like, okay, you must have one friend. So
Right.
that's how I started finding people. But in the in within the year and a half that I've been on Instagram, I I don't have to do that anymore. There's people that's popping up every time I scroll through, or it's amazing how it's grown, how more people have decided to, you know, share their love of Disney, more
Yep.
people of color. So I think that the fact that the community is growing is going to be a positive thing for representation and for people to actually acknowledge the fact that it is a diverse population. Um, and I think that, because people just, whatever you consume, whatever media you consume is what you think is real.
Yep.
So the fact that we are out here now, they will be more aware that maybe their feed was a little one note, and
Exactly.
now they can, diversify it and learn something new from other people and other cultures.
I think that's the beauty of the whole platform. I literally feel like Instagram was designed to connect people. Like it's a community. It's to visually display your life and find like-minded individuals. So the fact that people are making like real life connections in this community And having these difficult conversations, like you said, it's paramount. Like it's a beautiful thing watching this grow. And I haven't been here a very long time. I joined the Disneygram back in like 2017 with a couple of my friends, but we didn't really have a brains behind the operation. It was kind of like, oh, when we're in Disney, we'll post a picture, but like it didn't make sense. It was very disjointed. So we scrapped the whole thing, and then I came back as an individual um, in January of this year, and just from that transition of like 2017 to now, I agree. There's a ton more faces that, I'm like, oh, you weren't here last time, or oh, I didn't know about you. You know what I mean? And like now it's just like everywhere you turn. And I'm like, okay, like we could be friends in real life. This is great.
Yeah, yeah. And I always, you know, give much respect to the people who have been in the space for a long time.
Yes.
And, they probably have felt like, oh gosh, I'm the only one. And I always give much respect to them who have, necessarily possibly stuck it out or just, had to deal with being one of one.
Yep.
And, you know, now there's more of us and I'm excited.
I am
Uh,
too. I think bridging that gap is like, oh, it's such a beautiful thing to watch. I think just speaking to the one of one concept, like I said, I still feel like I see a lot of the same faces, but I know it's because like these people have put in the work, they've put in the time. And so and I'm not taking that away from them. They should be represented, but oftentimes I still feel like they're one of one at these events. And like speaking to what you just said, like there's been so much growth that there's no excuse for that. And I feel like if the shoe were on the other foot, if you were going into predominantly Black spaces and there was one of one as a white person, or predominantly Hispanic, places and there was one of one non POC, like I feel like people would be more attentive to that. But for some reason, there's like this blind eye, at a lot of these like Disney influencer events where people are just like, oh no, what do you mean it's diverse? Like we had one Asian person and one Latino person and one Black person. Like that doesn't count for diverse. It's not like a checkbox. You can't like get
hmm
one of us in there and call yourself diverse. That's not
hmm
exactly how that works, but we're making strides.
Yeah, and it goes to like the media. A lot of times you'll see one, there's one on the television show, so you're good, you know?
Exactly.
And so it has to start to evolve to show that, just because you have one doesn't mean that you're being diverse. You need to start to reevaluate how you promote diversity, how you show diversity. It's okay if there are a sea of Black people and a handful of white people at this event here, and it might be a sea of Latino people and a handful of Black people, and maybe one white person at another event. That's not, that is okay too,
Right.
and you like mixing it up in different
Exactly.
places and, you know, broadening what people have in their mind as diversity is really important.
I
Um,
completely agree.
and it goes across not just races, it goes across, sexuality, it goes across
Yes.
gender. Um, and so that's important. And I feel like in this day and age, it is evolving more and we are working faster towards getting to that point. People are becoming more understanding and more tolerant and more aware of their biases. And I just am excited for what's to come.
I agree. I mean, I think it's very easy to like step into a spot and be, like I don't see anybody else who looks like me. I had to check my own bias when we were having this conversation that kind of popped this whole thing off over lunch at Dapper Day. Eddie had made a comment around a lot of these pages don't feature gay men of color. And I was like, damn, that's something I never realized because I'm not a gay man of color. Like it wasn't even something I was looking for because it wasn't reflective of me specifically. And I think oftentimes that's how a lot of these blind eye biases take place. It's just you don't see it because it's not you. It's not your everyday. It's not your point of view. And I think the more people who can open your eyes to like, hey, see me, like, hey, I'm here too, the more of a melting pot and the more beautiful this community is going to be. There's just so much work to be done, not just for people of color, but the LGBTQ community, you know, people with disabilities. It's just not enough. And they're out here too, you know, and we all enjoy the Disney magic. Like there is enough room out here for all of us.
Right. And I think we have to take it upon ourselves and charge other people to kind of mix it up a little bit with who you're following and what you're reading and what you're watching, and be a little open-minded every now and then to watch something that might not be in your demographic.
Right.
And that's something I have to really do, because I don't know, well, you've listened to the podcast before, like I like the Black version of everything, and so
Right.
I'm like, what? There's no Black people in here. I'm not really pressed to watch it.
Hilarious.
So, that, like I said, I'm gonna sit back and watch all these movies. But, that's something that all of us can be a little more aware of, and be, and take that chance and take that step just to watch something that we may not have thought that we'd like, or we'd be, we thought that would relate to us.
Exactly.
So, broaden your horizons.
Yes, it's so important. Like, and I've realized that the way the like algorithm is structured, you know, the more content you like or engage with or whatever, you start to see more of that on your timeline. So it really is like a conscious effort that needs to be made to diversify what you're getting. Like you said, you know, you got to branch out. You got to start, you know, following people who you wouldn't necessarily have thought to follow, you know, engage with stuff on the explore page that's probably outside of your realm, because if not, you're going to continue to see the same stuff on your timeline. Like Instagram is going to push back to you what you engage with.
Right.
So, which is all great and wonderful, but if you're trying to expand your horizons, you really need to make a conscious effort to expand your horizons. It's very important, something I too need to work on, as I have not seen Mary Poppins Returns. I had a very interesting conversation with Courtney from Color Me Magic about that, and just the way people are raised, and racial backgrounds, and how that also might impact the sort of movies you grew up with, because I too, Cinderella for me had box braids and thin eyebrows, and her godmother was Whitney Houston. Like,
Right.
I don't know this other Cinderella you speak of. And so, just needing to branch out and realize, like, wow, there's at least two other Disney versions of this movie. Who knew?
Right. 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 I've seen the live action one. Um, it's a live action version.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows how I
Yep.
feel about live action movies, but
Yes. Ooh, which is another
um,
conversation for another time. Because the way you went in on the Lion King,
let
I
me
just
tell, I
don't
wasn't
know.
alone though. I wasn't alone. Just
You weren't.
saying.
You weren't. It was a very eye-opening conversation for me. We, I realized we had some Beyonce haters in our midst as well. I just wasn't mentally prepared for that. So, it was a good time.
Oh
Again,
yeah.
we got
Oh
to
yeah.
engage in content, engage in conversations we wouldn't typically have. Like, I probably
Exactly.
wouldn't engage with somebody who doesn't rock with Beyonce. It's blasphemous, but here we are.
Well, she out here and she's fitting to own Disney now, so y'all,
Right?
y'all got to get ready.
Right?
Yes. So you did talk about getting the conversation going. What were some steps that you did take to get that started?
I really just provided probably uh, an excess of transparency. I started DMing accounts, small shops, larger brands, just trying to get the conversation started, letting them know that oftentimes I really was a fan of their content or a fan of their product. I didn't reach out to anybody who like I wouldn't have purchased from, or didn't see something that I liked. Like, I'm not even going to bother you because that's not even a space that I would frequent, whether you were showing Black folks or people of color or whatever anyway. So I tried to make a curated list of brands and small shops that I felt had a bit of a jump for improvement, an opportunity for improvement. And I provided a template. I shared it with my followers, anybody who wanted access to it. I was like, hey, DM me, screenshot it. Here it is. This is what I'm using. I was very transparent in brands and shops who had responded and who hadn't. That ruffled a few feathers, but ultimately I stand by what I did. I'd do it again. I also try to create a network of allies, because while I do fully stand by this community supporting each other, I also believe that sometimes you need an olive branch. Sometimes you need that foot in the door. And so I began connecting with allies, with people who were willing to fight the good fight, whether they were, POC or LGBTQ or, fell into any of the minority categories or not. And I just continue to try to provide updates, have a conversation, and push others to do the same, because at the end of the day, this wasn't like some movement I started. This was a conversation that I happened to continue. And you can't have a conversation by yourself. I mean, you could, but you'd be crazy. So just getting other people involved in the conversation has really been the biggest push I've been trying to make. And then highlighting those in the community who I feel, are worth shining a little spotlight on, and need a little love out here.
All right. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm a Gemini, so conversations with oneself is par for the course, but I digress.
Well, you guys are the twins, so I guess it's not completely weird.
There's a few of us in here right now. They come out with the different accents that you hear throughout my conversation.
Oh, I love it. So. I love it. Yeah, my dad's a Gemini, and kind of nicknamed his twin by his middle name. So okay. We always poke fun. We're like, oh, who are we talking to today? Are we getting Eric? Are we getting Kenneth? Like, who is this?
Oh, yes. I think I named mine after a few countries. I think there was like, it. Yeah. But we kind of touched on this a little bit. What are some things that you think everyone can do to promote people of color within the Disney community as a whole?
I think, again, just like being aware. There's just a level of awareness that needs to take place. If you step in a spot and realize that everybody looks like you, there's work to be done. I don't care what you look like. It should never be, I won't say never. Very rarely, if we're talking about Disney influencer spaces, should it be one note. I just, believe that awareness is probably the biggest hurdle that people need to kind of overcome to help promote people in the community who are of color. I also believe that people need to be willing to engage in the conversation. I think oftentimes this negative stereotype of being like the angry Black woman, like it can kind of come off if all these brands and shops are receiving are like messages from other Black women. Like it loses its punch, it loses its effectiveness, it loses its core meaning. It just looks like a bunch of angry Black women who have rallied together to point fingers at a brand. And so it's very important to have allies to, help you not fit into that stereotype, to break out of that stereotype, to help push the message forward. I think just being willing to contact or call out people, brands, companies when you see it. And it doesn't have to be in this like aggressive, confrontational way. You can just simply say like, there's an opportunity for change here. Let's talk about it, and then, get you some POC friends, right? Like, diversify your friend group, because it's so important. Like you're much more willing to promote, lift up, spotlight your people than you are random strangers. So start with a friend, promote a friend of color. Let's do that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the Disney fandom is so broad, and you will find a person of color in the niche that you enjoy. Yes. So, I love Disney bounding, and then I feel like the Disney bounding community is very diverse, and the friendships have been formed over Disney bounding. Right. And the person happens to be Black, the person happens to be Asian, the person happens to be white, the person happens to be Latino. The common core is the fact that we all like to Disney bound. And
Exactly.
so I enjoy that about the Disney bound community, that it is a very diverse community and very open and accepting community. And everyone gets a little bit of love. And I appreciate that from Leslie for doing that and being aware and being a great ally for that community in that sense. And I think, I mean, other people can do that. You don't have to wait for the official Disney Bound page to highlight someone. You can share your friend's awesome Disney Bound on your
Yes.
page, or, you
Yes.
can do a group bound with someone else, which I feel like happens very often in that community as well, that, people do challenges and they rally their friends, and it ends up being the most diverse feed that you see with this hashtag because everyone has that same common um, fandom, and they build bonds over that. And so that's what I kind of love about that community within the Disney community. And I think that's something that people can take a page from
Definitely.
and model. And if you're scrolling, kind of be a little more aware. Okay, I'm I'm gone through 10 profiles and they all look like me. Let
Exactly.
me let me take a moment to kind of try to find, something else, and add that into the mix. And show
And if
Instagram that I
people,
will still stay on the app. I'm not going to
right,
move away just because now it's
right.
something that's not necessarily fitting my particular common aesthetic.
And if you don't know where to start, like I have highlighted a ton of people of color in my story highlights. I know you have done the same. There's a few other places out there who have also done it. You can, at the people we're following who are following us. If you just need a starting place, if you're like, I don't even know where to go, on the quest to find other people who don't look like me but have similar interests. And keep in mind when I'm saying go find a friend of color, like please do not, I'm on the quest for a black friend. That's not going to translate well. But I think what you said is really key. Like the friendship started from a common love of Disney bounding. And then, nationality was secondary. And I think that that's beautiful because I don't think that you should seek friendships based on what people look like. But I do think that it's important that if you're looking around and all your friends look like you, that, there's some growth that could take place there. Um, Again, I just don't think that any setting is meant to be one note. It's such a melting pot out here. Like, there's just so much beauty in the diversity of it all. And I think, like you mentioned with the projects, the group bounds and stuff, Heather did a really, really dope project where she started, I'm sorry, it was Heather and Haley, started Disney style around the world. And they asked so many other people in the Disney space who, they deem stylish or whatever, or the community deems stylish, to participate in highlighting their Disney style outside of the parks because the Disney magic lives beyond the parks. And following that hashtag was such a beautiful experience because not only did you have different nationalities, but you had people who lived literally around the world, like different countries participating in this common love of Disney and style. And I thought it was just a resounding, you know, how do I say this without cursing? A resounding middle finger to Disney style, to say, like, look at all of this beauty that's out here. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be as one note as you all have been making it.
Right.
So I agree. I definitely think that there's just so much to be developed in this community through friendships and through just like finding common bonds. Um, it's really an opportunity. So that's what I think people can do to help promote people of color. Is it's not necessarily about promoting people of color as much as it is just like having an awareness of the lack thereof in spaces, and then starting the conversation or taking an action to help fill that void.
Right. And I think people may not know, like, necessarily where do I start to find the diversity. And like you said, other people have been sharing diverse accounts on their accounts And then there are diversity pages. There are pages that are just devoted to diversity. If you even
Yep,
follow one, you may see after some time, you may see an account that pops up that may resonate with you. And
exactly.
so that's one way for for people to find accounts that they may end up connecting with that they may not have found in a traditional sense because maybe all their other friends aren't following them, or they're not following the hashtags where their content would pop up. So yeah, there's definitely, I think, things that can be done to get the word out there
For sure.
and, get us representing.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So we're going to wrap up soon. It's been really, really great and enriching.
I've loved it.
Yes. What would you say is your favorite Disney moment or memory?
Oh, this one's easy. My non-Disney loving now husband um, proposed in front of Sleeping Beauty's castle during the Diamond Celebration at Disneyland. So what is that, 4 years ago? And it's by far my favorite memory. I remember wanting to go get snacks, shocker, and get a spot for the electrical parade, which comes back Friday, yay! But I remember being like, no, like, babe, we need to sit down. Like, we need to. He's like, no, like, let's go take some pictures in front of the castle. And I was like, okay, the castle will still be here, like, all night. Like, these spots won't. And he's like, babe, like, let's just go take some pictures. I was like, low key salty, but I went up there to take these pictures and he dropped down on one knee and asked me to spend forever with him. And it's one of my all time favorite memories in life and also my favorite Disney memory.
Awesome. That's so beautiful. So you got your little castle proposal.
I
Okay.
did. It's fire, babe. The
Cute.
pictures are fire.
I know. I love how did you have like a photo pass photographer?
No, actually, my husband's best friend, best man in our wedding, and probably godfather to our future children, happens to be a photographer like on the side and caught the moment like perfectly. I'm like, this is the best work you've ever done.
Naturally, naturally.
So no photo pass, just a bestie.
Oh, that's perfect. Anyway, that's beautiful. Um, so what is one thing about yourself that you would like for everyone to know?
Oh man, I think one thing that I would like people to know is that I'm human and am in no way, shape, or form on a quest to become an influencer. Like, that was not my intent with starting this page. I just wanted to share stuff that I liked and find other people who looked like me. And I think the one thing that I've like found that I really love with this page is actually connecting with people like in real life. And so I would just, like people to know that I'm accessible and I'm human, and that means I'll make mistakes, but I'm always going to try to be my authentic self and love to connect and make new relationships. So I think that would be my ending note of what I'd want people to know.
Okay, awesome. So this has been really amazing. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I think this conversation we're just scratching the surface, and
Yes.
I think it does need to be some type of roundtable discussion and I would like to include, people from more different backgrounds. I would like to include, people from the Latino community, from the white community, from the Asian community. I think it would be worthwhile to sit down and have this discussion. So,
I agree.
we may have to
Put
redo
something
this.
together. Put
Yes, for
something
sure, for
together.
sure. For sure, for sure. But this was a great start. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to me.
Thank
I
you for
really
asking me to be here. Your
appreciate it.
platform is dope. And like I said, I'm just like honored and flattered to have this moment with you. So thank you.
Oh, thank you as well. And if people want to reach out to you, they want to find you, they want to see your style, where can they do that?
I am pretty easy to find as I am really only on Instagram. So my Instagram is Eryka's Endless Magic. That's ERYKAS _endless _magic.
Awesome. And I will link that in the show notes in the description for this episode so everyone can be able to find it super easy.
Sweet.
So once again, thank you.
Thank
And
you, June.
I'm a little bummed that I don't think I'm gonna see you when I come to Cali,
I
but
know. Well, we need to connect because if you're getting here like before the meetup, so basically I leave for out of town. I'll be gone the 21st through the 28th. So, or no, I'm sorry, the 21st through the 30th. So if you're
yeah,
here before the 21st, I'll see
I
you.
get here the 20th, so you
Okay,
may
it
have to
might be
hop
a
into the park
stretch,
real quick because that's
but
definitely gonna be a
I
park
can make
day.
it work. You just say the word, okay? Because this meetup needs to happen.
Yeah, I'll probably be in the park that day for sure. So
All
uh,
right. Well, I'll be there
pencil me in
too
a little bit.
then.
Yeah, I need some photos from you.
Yes, please, please. I promise I will make you super comfortable in front of the camera. I am an unofficial best self hype woman ever. So, I've deemed myself that award, but you can ask others who have shot with me. I'm the official gasser upper. So I got you.
Okay, hopefully my lazy eye will be behaving that
Girl, I
day.
got one too. It's all about the angles. We'll be all right.
It's all right. I'm gonna get me some nice sunglasses. It'll be good. It'll be good.
Yes. Big hair, big hair. It's fine.
Exactly. But thank you again, and I cannot wait to continue this conversation with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yes, I will be seeing you next month, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
You've just heard my conversation with Eryka. I'm going to charge each and every one of you to make an effort to step outside of your comfort zone and engage with someone you normally wouldn't. And I also charge you to promote other Disney fans of color, whether they're within your circle or not, and help build and grow this community. You never know. You may be the link for someone's future bestie or even life partner. So don't block someone else's blessings, y'all. The POC owned small business for this episode is the Rachelist Place on Earth. It is a shop that is owned by Rachel Gagne and specializes in Disney-inspired custom cups. Check out her stuff at www.rachelist.com. And if you're listening to this episode on its air date, Thursday, August 29th, head on over to my Frozen Fantasyland IG page and enter the giveaway to win an Afros and Pixie Dust pin. And if you aren't listening to this episode on its air date and missed the giveaway, head on over to the page and check out the post anyway, because I think you'll love it nonetheless. And as always, if you've enjoyed what you've heard, please be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share this podcast with all of your friends. And also be sure to join the Afros and Pixie Dust Facebook group so we can chat more about representation in the Disney community. So until next time, never stop deep conditioning or pursuing your happiness.